Good morning. I would like to start by thanking the Education Alliance for sponsoring this event and thank my fellow participants, Dr. Shelby Haynes and Superintendent Rooney. I would like to offer my insights from a teacher perspective from this pandemic event. It's been quite an educational opportunity for all of us. So looking back, some issues that have been brought to the forefront, some teacher takeaways. The thing that has impressed and amazed me, I think the most, is that how at all levels, from state leadership down to our school building personnel, districts across our country have united to serve students on all fronts. All individuals involved have been true heroes and true community servants. And I just think that's been a wonderful thing to see. I also want to thank our educational leadership in our state. Superintendent Birch and all of our county superintendents have really been doing an amazing job keeping us updated and informed and just connected with each other. So we're all doing the very best we can do to serve all of our students. Our teacher, our service personnel, and our administration have just worked together seamlessly, balancing it all, balancing not only the academics, but the social, emotional, and physical needs of our students, as well as ourselves, keeping ourselves healthy mentally and physically. And it's been really impressive also to see teachers working beyond their job descriptions, trying to learn very quickly new modalities and methods of lesson delivery and also assessment, while trying to stay one step ahead day to day to be prepared. And that's a really difficult thing to do. It's difficult to maintain that in the classroom, but to do it virtually is a completely different story. And again, like I said, this has been a real mental and physical challenge, I think, for everyone involved. I think we were all in panic mode during the first few weeks, facing the unknown, not only what was going to happen with school, but just healthcare in general and society in general. So because of that leadership that we had, it really helped the situation for all of us. And teachers have just been amazing, doing a complete pivot from their day-to-day routines, making a 180-degree turn just on a dime to transform their practice, and how they've taken it upon themselves just to really step up to meet the challenge has been just quite a feat. So another issue I wanted to talk about and reflect upon is just teachers and schools working with families and students during this time, how important that is. I think the priority is and will continue to be, it must continue to be, students first, building and maintaining that student and family relationship first. And establishing and maintaining contact has been made and kept a priority during this time just to prevent feelings of isolation. And keeping lines of communication open to maintain those personal relationships is just a must. I know that myself and my fellow teachers have made countless phone calls, emails, text messages. We have sent cards and sent letters, including all the online learning platforms as well, just to maintain that communication, just to reach out to say, how are you? How are you doing? Do you need anything? Is there anything I can do or we can do to help you? Please let us know. And I just think that's the center part of it all, to hold us all together. This situation has also exposed inequities on a huge, larger scale. And I think, we've come face to face with data that we talk about all the time and have talked about over the years. We've realized now that people are not just numbers. In times of crisis like this, it becomes real. And when those relationships that have been built and maintained really have to be dealt with, it's in our face, and we have to figure out what we're going to be doing with it. I think from that situation, we've gained a much broader understanding that not all students and families have equal access to learning at home. And we have provided paper packet options for those who do not have broadband internet access. And we worked with our students and families and teachers as a team to establish dates for pickup and drop off, like Superintendent Haynes described, and it has worked very well, I believe. It's also important, while we talk about that, to think about and consider our students and needs of those students who are homeless, living with family members or friends, those who are in foster cares and in shelters. We cannot forget them, and to make sure that they remain on our priority list also. And I think we have done that. We have reached out to them as well. And like Dr. Haynes also mentioned, considering how to reach students with special needs. I believe we've come up with innovative ways to do that. Dr. Haynes mentioned IEP meetings and improving parent involvement in that. Also thinking about our students who are not English language learners, and utilizing the materials we already had in place and adapting those, but also looking at new ways to address our English language learners. It's still a hurdle to overcome, and I think we're still learning from that, but that was another need, maybe a missing item that has been brought to the forefront also. Last week, the discussion we had was the broadband internet connectivity and access to devices. And it was very reassuring as a teacher to know that there are groups of individuals, businesses, and politicians and community members involved in improving that situation. We have to get that infrastructure in place to overcome that issue. And I think that the limited engagement because of those issues has caused increased stress on students and families. And thankfully, those involved are familiar enough with cell phone and cell phone service and connectivity to help overcome some of that. Next, we need to remember what learning looks like at different grade levels and from different perspectives. And what I do as a high school teacher is very different than what an elementary school teacher or a pre-K teacher or even a college or university professor would do. So it's difficult sometimes to keep that all in balance, but to remember that we all have different perspectives on the situation and that we all need to work together as teachers, as a teaching team, to keep everybody involved and balanced. We have to listen to student and family voices, again, asking them what they need to make things easier, to deal with their own stress. And from a personal standpoint, not just parents and students, but teachers have also faced similar issues. I live in a very rural area. My internet connectivity is very limited and unreliable under normal day-to-day circumstances and conditions. And now it seems so much worse. I recently found out that I'm paying for internet service that I'm not truly receiving. So it's a problem. I'm also facing my own lack of technology experience. I am so thankful for all the webinars and virtual classes that have been made available and free of charge for teachers to update our skills. And I have enjoyed so much the teacher-to collaboration because it's helped me realize that I'm not alone in this situation. And that has been really a positive joy that has come out of this for me personally. I'm concerned about students who have not been engaged. I think that social media and mainstream media at the beginning, so much early on, was just overload. And I'm afraid that some were checked out, but it was, for me personally, some did check back in as we progressed through that. I think some students may have been avoiding some work or check-in because of feeling overwhelmed or really learning maybe for the first time what it's like how to manage self-directed learning or manage their time. So from that, hopefully they have grown as well. We also need to realize that not every student's home life is optimum, and we must continue to address their social and emotional learning needs as we start to return to the classrooms. Always keeping that in mind, in the back of our minds as we move forward. Personally, an issue for me has been a lack of visual student feedback. I really miss those visual nonverbal clues. And it's difficult when you're looking at a paper packet, or when I receive an online response to my online class forum. It's really hard for me to determine where that student is in their progress at that particular point in time. I really miss that face-to-face contact. It makes a huge difference in the teaching practice, especially with assessment and those ongoing moment-to-moment assessments that we make. So I think students, in a way, are also missing out on their collaboration, their group work, their discovery and problem solvings, and their basic social interaction skills. It is still happening, thankfully. It's just different in a virtual learning situation. But at least we have some of that still continuing. But I definitely look forward to getting back to that also. Up front and in the beginning, I think as teachers, we were very concerned about how we're going to handle our grading. How are we going to assess their work? But I'm so thankful that we have focused on quality and progress, not on quantity of completion. And I think at this particular point in time, that has been very, very important, just because of everything that I've previously mentioned, all previous concerns. That was the best answer at this particular time. So I think moving forward, considering our seniors, I read recently where FAFSA, the applications this year have decreased, and that was a concern. I'm also thinking about our first generation college students and our rising college freshmen. They are already experiencing a massive amount of anxiety as they start to face new experiences and independence, and now it just seems compounded with unknown plans. And until they kind of figure out, and until they wait for colleges and universities to figure out how that their own reentry will look like for their campuses. So hopefully this will be a positive learning experience for them. And I think about our first year teachers and our student teachers. What have they been going through, and what have they learned and gained from the experience? I recently spoke with a science teacher in West Virginia. I had the privilege of meeting her actually in a Zoom meeting. She just started in January, and it was very reflective to see, how far she has come and what she has gained from the experience. And she definitely has a lot to contribute. Also, I think moving forward, we have to be very optimistic. We have to take everything we have learned, like Dr. Haynes has said, and apply it. This has been a huge learning opportunity for all of our society, and it will have major historical impact. I'm really a true believer in thinking that the situation has shined a light on all educational professionals, and they have shown us to be vital players in society, where we have a huge impact in the role that we play. I believe teacher voices have been elevated, and I hope they've been heard by policymakers. I hope that this helps to direct funding to areas of need in public education. And I certainly hope our young people will be inspired to consider teaching as a profession, just because of the impact that they can certainly have. I think things will be very positive moving forward, like I said, as we considered what school will really look like, modifications we will need to make, and how we will be addressing possible student learning gaps. And I think with everyone working together as a team, it will be a smooth as possible transition back into the classroom. I'm very pleased with the strengthening that's taking place and partnerships between students and teachers and administrators and families. It's definitely a bonding, I feel, that has taken place, and that has been a very positive thing. And we must still, again, continue to incorporate that social and emotional factors of learning as we move forward. So finally, I just want to end by saying this pandemic, as scary and as terrible as it has been, has given us an opportunity to really think about and redesign what education looks like locally and at the national level, and how, as that team, family team, we can move forward with the goal of keeping individualized learning at the forefront and addressing needs of all of our students from this point. So I just wanted to say thank you again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We truly appreciate your incredible insight as a teacher throughout this crisis. Our first question for you is, you talked about the importance of relationships. How do you balance the need to teach academically with your social economic responsibilities?
I've always, when I started my teaching career, I learned early on that building that relationship first is an absolute must. You can talk about all the science content you want to talk about. Until you address that student as a person, meet them as a person, and show them respect as a person and as an individual, it's all for nothing. Once that relationship is established and maintained, then that's when the real learning takes place, because it's a one-to-one constant feedback relationship. And it is a balance. You can't just do it once and then move on. It's a day-to-day interaction. And that it's been very difficult to maintain that in this virtual learning situation, just because of the feedback issues that I discussed. But I think as teachers, we have all gained knowledge from this experience, and hopefully we will all continue to apply that as we head back to the classrooms to keep building that one-on-one connection with our students.
Great, thank you so much. Our last question for Jennifer is, as a science teacher, you teach high school students. Was there anything your students said that was most helpful with keeping them engaged in learning throughout this remote learning situation?
Anything that they said. I think I was most impressed by their interest in continue learning. I honestly can say, if I were in their shoes as a high school student, I would have found it very difficult to maintain the level of interest and motivation that most of my students have. So I think what they have said, it's not so much what they have said, it has been what they have done. Their level of participation, their level of interest has really impressed me. I keep thinking to myself, would I really have done that, or would I just kind of done the bare minimum, but I can honestly say most of mine have not done the bare minimum. And the quality of work that I have received back just blows me away, really. And I've still done my best to maintain feedback. I've tried to give personal feedback to every piece of work that I have received. I haven't done that 100%, but I've certainly tried just to maintain that. And it's been difficult and quite time consuming, but I think that has helped the situation also. So that the self-motivation has been, pretty darn good.